All right, this is going to be a set of notes for interpreting scatter plots, and so go ahead and put that at the top. And for this set of notes, we are going to be pursuing how can I describe the story a set of two variable data tells. And so a set of two variable data, when you graph it, is called a scatter plot. Give you just a moment, or you can pause to write that essential question. So the first sub-question we're going to look at is, when does a scatter plot tell a story? Because some scatter plots tell a story, some don't. And so the most important way that you can tell is a scatter plot tells a story when you can find a pattern or a trend in the data. And so a scatter plot tells a story when a pattern or a trend can be seen in the data. And so I've got a few examples here. Pause at any time if you need to catch up with the writing, because I'm just going to speak through this, and you can pause if you need to or rewind. So some examples that have trends, and I'm going to use a highlighter here with sort of a small edge. Things that have trends are things where you can see a pattern. So I can definitely see that this data has an up and to the left pattern. I can see that this data has a down and to the right pattern. And then I can see this data has sort of a curved pattern. And so any one of those tells a story about the variables involved, and we'll have to do some more work to figure out what the story is, but they have a pattern, so we can assume they tell some kind of story. There's some that have no trend, and so here I can't sort of identify what direction the data is heading. I don't know, because the data is sort of scattered all over the place. You can't identify any pattern. There's no shape that's emerging. There's no idea if it's moving up and to the right. The data is just all over the place. And so that's an example when it does not tell a story. So our second sub-question is, when a scatter plot tells a story, how can I describe it? And there's several different aspects of this. So when a scatter plot tells a story, how can I describe it? The first piece of information, or first way you can describe it, is you can tell it to be positive or negative. And positive, you can see my examples there. I hope you recreate them on your notes. Positive goes up and to the right. And so both of these go up and to the right. And then negative goes down and to the right. And I apologize, I kind of made a mistake here. Careful observers will notice that this actually has a curved pattern. And so curved patterns can be described as negative or positive. Occasionally you'll have one that is both, and if it's both, you'll see something like this one, where it's increasing, it's positive, and then it's negative afterwards. And so you can have both as well. All right, again, pause if you need to. Second description we can use is it can be linear or non-linear. Linear means it looks like a line. And so I've got two examples here. I can draw a trend or a pattern that kind of fits a line. That's a linear pattern. Linear patterns look like lines. Non-linear patterns are not lines. Sorry, I have an extra word in there. Non-linear patterns are not lines. And so if I zoom in on the nonlinear patterns here, this pattern goes up and then comes down and goes up and comes down. And so there's a pattern there, but it is nonlinear. It's not a line. Here we have a curve. Again, that would be nonlinear because it is not a line. Sorry for my sniffles. Okay. And then finally, it can be a strong or a weak pattern, or a strong or a weak relationship. When it's strong, you can really clearly see the pattern. You can really clearly see the shape emerging from the data. So in this strong one here, it's almost perfectly a straight line. When I draw my trend there, I highlight almost every dot. Here on the weak one, there's still sort of a linear pattern going up and to the right, but when I draw my line, I don't touch much of the data. I can just sort of see the shape emerging, but it's not clear. And so that's what a weak relationship looks like. All right, moving on. You'll also have to look at what is an outlier. An outlier is a point that is outside of the trend in the rest of the data. And so if I have a clear trend in the data, I might have a single point that is outside of that trend, and that is called an outlier because it lies outside of the trend. And so you can kind of think of outliers as points that don't follow the rule that's coming out in the rest of the data. and they kind of defy the story that the data is telling. So again, an outlier is a point that is outside of the trend in the rest of the data. For the problem set for this, you'll be answering a lot of questions around these different ideas that we've just discussed. There's going to be a couple of other issues as well. You may need to select the best graph, and so occasionally you have to remember some things about slope that you remember or that you learned last semester. If you need any help, make sure you show me the notes and then ask. I do insist that you try to do the summary piece, which is to take the main ideas from the notes that you just took and try to summarize it in a couple of sentences so that you can do some additional learning about it. Good luck.